Hey, everybody, this is Mac with Veterans Achieve Business Systems. Today we have Amy Rickman and multi-talented young lady. I met her by chance. Something clicked. We both are into supplements and helping people have better health. And she does it a little bit more than me. I take this stuff. She actually teaches about the stuff. But what's interesting to me as we meet is without getting too foo-foo, um, the energy that comes from somebody. And I was magnetized to Amy almost immediately. And normally we don't have speakers come on that are not already a part of the Achieve group without charging them $500 to be here. But we bypass that because I think Amy has a story that is very important. And for all of us, understanding how we take better care of ourselves. And I recognize that more and more being the old guy in every room. And here, the lady that's smacking me around with my health, Darlene, just showed up. But Amy, thank you for doing this. I know that it's something that you do, but something not in the ordinary of what you do. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll impose burning questions that I have, and towards the end, we'll let others jump in and see how they can pick your brain. And you are coming to conference
Yes,
uh,
sir.
and all of that. So maybe we'll see you tonight so we can talk about how we can make you more visible at conference also. So
Absolutely.
go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Am I able to share my screen in just a second?
Send me the request and I'll approve it.
Okay, wonderful. So first of all, thank you. It's such an honor to be here, Mac. Like you said, we just connected right away. I worked for the military for many years, and my husband's a retired Air Force. He was a meteorologist. So we just connected right away, and I just love your heart for serving others. And I have the same. I have just always had compassion when I see people that are struggling with their health, whatever. If I know something, it's hard for me to hold back that I could help them in some way. So that's why I started doing what I do. Let me just check. Um, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. So let me see. Share.
I did see the request. I did approve it.
Okay. Yeah, usually I run it from my account.
Hey,
Okay.
Tim, you're muted. We're just trying to get some technical stuff going here.
So I can start sharing my story while we're figuring this out if you would like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
We're a
basically,
casual group.
okay, and I'm going to ask my tech support up here as well. Um, so basically, I grew up with some homeopathy. And first of all, a lot of times people are confused about what homeopathy is. So I'm going to discuss what that is. But it's usually the little white pellets that you can find in or the combination remedies. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. We're not able to share the screen. And I'm not running they're running the meeting. So one of the things that I learned is we had somebody that taught us about homeopathy and encouraged us to get a kit when I was growing up. We didn't have internet. We just had one book and one box of remedies. And I started teaching myself and reading through it. and learning all about it. Um, and then what happened is I started getting sick all the time. I had horrible allergies. I lived in New Mexico where we had juniper trees, and my dad was a teacher, but he sold firewood. He was actually former Marine Corps. But we burned firewood, and I was constantly feeling sick and dealing with these horrible allergies. Let's see if we've got this going.
There we go.
You can see it? Okay, wonderful. Yes, thank you. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to thank you for um, thank you all the veterans for what you have done, because I know that your time in service has been challenging. And just like I said, I worked 12 years for the military. I started out working for the Air Force at Hahnemann Air Force Base. I worked at Lakenheath in England, and I also worked in Germany for the Army in Garmisch. And then from there, I went and worked in the Pentagon for the Chief of Naval Operations for 5 years. And I did international relations there. So spent a lot of time doing this. I have a picture here. That's me right there, second from the right. And we did a lot of Navy to Navy talks, a lot of traveling. I worked a little while for the Joint Staff, traveled with the flag officers there, and did a lot with embassies, our embassies, and the international embassies, and had an amazing time. Got to travel on the Secretary of Navy's plane, got to brief him a lot. I did not travel with him on the plane, but we would take delegations around the country and roll out the red carpet for meal-to-meal relations. So I have a huge respect for the military. I was given, they changed an O5 billet for me to be able to take this position, which was quite an honor. I was a presidential management fellow, which was very challenging to get into, very competitive. So I was so thankful I was able to do that. Then I met my husband. He was Air Force, and those Navy guys were not happy about me dating someone that was Air Force. Not sure what happened, but anyway, he was able to. Our whole dating career was going, taking him to embassy events. We joked we didn't even have a regular date of going to a movie and dinner until after we were married because we didn't have time. So we had quite the interesting career or dating time, and he was obviously well into his career as well. So he dragged me back to Colorado Springs, kicking and screaming. I was pregnant with this guy right here, 6 weeks from my due date. And I ended up here without working at my position, and had a baby, and everything changed for me. And I ended up having a thyroid cancer scare. So in between these two, I was out at the Air Force Academy, and they were doing tests for thyroid cancer, and that was not fun. And I started to wake up very quickly and realize that what I was doing was not working. And so I jumped you know, fully into nutrition and health. And then this little girl came along and she had a lot of very complex issues, including, we didn't realize it at the time, but it was breathing issues. She was on physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And so I started trying to figure out what we could do to take her off of medication so that she didn't have a lifelong need for medication. And so that was my goal. And that's kind of what started me down that path. And then this is my husband's retirement he retired out of Peterson out of Northcom. Um, first of all, I wanted to say, if you were in the military, if you could send me if you could just put in the chat what service you were in, I would love to see that. Like I said, my dad was in the Marine Corps, and so I feel like I've supported all of them. And for a little while, I worked at Department of Navy in BRAC in base realignment and closure, which was interesting. So I'd love to hear that. So we first started out, and I started realizing my nutrition was way off. We would go to the commissary, and I would get boxes of Cheerios and goldfish and all the stuff that was packaged, because that's all I knew how to cook. And once I started realizing that nutrition was so important, I went back to, I still do a farmer share drive up to Castle Rock from Colorado Springs every week to get that in the summer for 20 weeks. Started doing my own bone broth. We started doing fermented foods. And people started coming to me and asking me, how do you do this? And so I started teaching classes. I was already an educator for my kids at that point and teaching classes for them where they were. And I started teaching adult classes. So, what is homeopathy? A lot of people are unsure of what homeopathy is. So, I'm going to explain it. And then, if you have used homeopathy, I want you to put in the chat what your comfort level is from a 1 to a 3, with 3 being most comfortable, and what you've used in the past. So, I'm just going to show you. You can see this little blue bottle right here or on the screen. This is an example of what homeopathy is. You can usually find it in Sprouts, King Supers, Amazon, those kinds of places. And it's usually 2 Latin words and a number and a letter. So that's how you usually can tell, because you know what potency it is. So we'll talk about that. And then there's also combination remedies. For example, I have this one just to show you. There's like sleep calm, cold calm, allergy calm. And this on the back of it, it's going to have, those 2 Latin words and then the number and the letter. So that's how you're going to be able to tell with that. So they've combined them together to kind of help you figure it out. So it makes it a little easier. So homeopathy means homeos means similar and pathos means suffering. So if you've used homeopathy, please let me know in the chat. I would love to see that. And then just kind of what your comfort level is. So it's based on the principle that substances that cause symptoms in healthy people can be used in extreme dilution to treat illnesses that cause the same symptoms. So it uses the principle of like cures like, and it stimulates the body just naturally and gently to get a healthy healing response. So the example I use that's really easy to understand, and I think maybe somebody's not muted, is coffee beans. So with coffee beans, what would that cause normally if you're just going to drink coffee? What kind of reaction are you going to get? If you can put that in the chat, I would love to see that. Oh, thank you. And somebody was in the army in Germany. Okay, we might have crossed paths at one point. I love Germany. Okay, okay. So Steve says he's used some. Okay. Um, so with coffee, we're going to get that stimulant. So it's going to make us wired. It's going to make us feel energetic. Well, that same thing, so like cures like, is if we were to use coffee accruta, which is made out of the coffee bean, and what they do is we'll talk about this a little more, is you can take the raw substance and they turn it into a tincture, which tinctures you can make on your own, but then they make the dilutions in a lab under very strict guidelines. So basically, coffee accruta would help you with sleep issues. So instead of your mind racing and being stimulated, and this is how you would know you needed coffee accruta, you would instead of drink what coffee would do, this would actually calm down your mind and help you sleep. So this is an example I use. There's the same with Allium cepa. If we have anybody that's a gardener, the Allium family. So Allium cepa, if you were to cut red onion, what would happen to your eyes and nose usually? You're usually going to be streaming, painful. So Allium cepa in homeopathic potency would help if you're have allergies or you have a certain cold that's your eyes are streaming and your nose is running. So it's just getting around that understanding of that. Okay. Okay, so what is homeopathy? So it's safe, gentle, and natural system of healing that works with your body to restore and improve overall health. And I love it because I work with a lot of animals. I work with pregnant mamas can have it. Babies from newborns through the elderly can use homeopathy without side effects. So it's natural. And there's so many times, even with herbs, you have to be careful because they can interact with certain medications. So I always tell people when you're looking at herbs, check to make sure you can have it with your medication. But normally this is okay to have with pharmaceuticals. We don't love having the pharmaceuticals because sometimes you can get the side effects and it's a little bit harder, but it still works. For example, if somebody's going through cancer treatments, there's certain homeopathy that we can give to help with the side effects. So they can take it before and after a treatment that would help with the nausea, the the dry mouth, whatever it might be, whatever situation that they're feeling, if it be kind of that brain fog that some people get. Okay, it doesn't have the side effects, which is what I love of conventional medicine. It is affordable. So if you look at these in Sprouts, they're around $10 a bottle, right, Mac? I'm going to have you share your story in a little bit. And it's made from natural substances. So, what a lot of people don't understand is when you have a pharmaceutical, a lot of times they're trying to chemically create what they found either naturally in the environment. They're trying to create their own chemical compound because they want to patent it. So with homeopathy, you can't patent it. So we can't patent red onions or coffee, right? It's already there. So because of that, it doesn't make a lot of money. And if you understand, in the United States, pharmaceutical is a huge billion-dollar industry. It's multi-billion-dollar industry. So they're not going to, kind of support a lot of this when it's you're selling it for $10 a bottle, right? And you can get a something similar that would help, that would be a pharmaceutical that would be a little more expensive, right? Okay, so there are thousands of positive outcomes, preclinical and clinical studies, and I have this is in pub all the PubMed related studies that are related to homeopathy. There's 227 pages, about 20 studies per page if you want to go on and see this. And so you can do a search and say homeopathy and whatever's going on with you, right? And look to see. And most of the studies you're going to find are not done in the United States because we don't have the resources or the push to do that. But in Europe, South America, India, Australia, that's where a lot of this is coming, and they're using it. Homeopathy has been shown to be clinically effective for over 200 years, which is beautiful, because how many times have you gone to the doctor like, oh, I've got this new medication. Would you like to be a guinea pig and try it? I can give you some free samples. I decided I didn't want to do the guinea pig thing anymore. It is also federally recognized. People don't really realize that. It's been a form of medicine recognized by the FDA. So it is not considered just a supplement. It is actually a medicine. So we treat it with respect like a medicine. And you can get it over the counter. So that's what I teach people is how to treat themselves and their families, and your animals, so that you can save time, money, headache, stress of dealing with the medical system. So anyway, so this is a great alternative, and I teach you those skills. So homeopathy began in the 1700s by German physician Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who was dissatisfied. uh, at that point they were doing bloodletting and using extreme things like arsenic and all the leeches and all of that. So he was really upset and actually left the profession for a while because he was so frustrated. And they had, I think, bloodlet an Austrian prince. He was German, an Austrian prince at the time, and 4 times, and the Austrian prince died. And so he wrote this article in the German paper about, why would you do that? You're only hurting humanity by doing that. So he discovered, he was very smart. He was a physician. He spoke many languages. So he was translating information in Latin back and forth to different languages. And so he started reading up on cinchona bark, which actually it was used to cure malaria. And so he found that by using the cinchona bark, he could create symptoms of malaria in himself. And malaria was a big issue at the time, especially for the military that was fighting in different places. So anyway, so he started figuring out ways to treat malaria in a much better way than they had at that point. They did use quinine, as many of you have heard. So there's actually huge amounts of quinine in cinchona bark. So it was popular around the 19th century and spread to Europe, Asia, and the Americas. In the US, did you know we had over 100 homeopathic hospitals and many homeopathic doctors? People don't realize that, but that's what a lot of them were trained in. When they talk about the powders, a lot of them were powders of the homeopathy. They didn't have the pellets at the time. So I always tell people, because oh yeah, I use homeopathy. And even when I talk to doctors, they get confused. So homeopathy is not home remedies. So you don't just make homeopathy at home. I make my tinctures at home, like for a valerian tincture or whatever to help me sleep. I do not make these pellets at home. It is regulated by the FDA and made in homeopathic pharmacies under strict guidelines. It is not a supplement. It is not a vitamin. It's not a food. It's not an essential oil. Essential oils are great, but you still have to really be careful of essential oils. I use them every day, but just the other day, I accidentally ended up burning my eye because I had not fully washed my hands. So you have to be careful with essential oils around pets and around kids and those kinds of things, and what you can use topically or what you can't. And so I just love that homeopathy. Like I said, I still use essential oils, but homeopathy, I don't have to worry about that. It is not a botanical, although sometimes it's made from botanicals, which can be confusing. It's not a tea. It's not colloidal silver or apple cider vinegar or Chinese traditional medicine, although those are all great. So, like I said, the FDA oversees the preparation of homeopathic remedies. And did you know the FDA was actually started by a homeopathic doctor who wanted to make sure the standardization was accurate because it was really important. So homeopathic medicines are manufactured in strict accordance with homeopathic pharmacopoeia of the United States. And it should say that HPUS on your bottle. Unlike supplements people don't realize are really not regulated by the FDA. So this is an example, thuya, which I told you I was allergic to juniper trees. This is from a juniper type of tree, the occidental. So what you do is you make a mother tincture, what they do in the labs, and then they take 1 drop and they add 99 drops of pure alcohol for 1C, and they succuss it or shake it. Then they take 1 drop from that and make it 2C, and then 3C, and then 4C, and so forth. And so, Mac, I was going to ask you, what do you remember what potency you're using for your homeopathy for one of your remedies?
No, I
No?
you told me what to get, and I did it, and I noticed the difference.
Okay. Okay. It's probably, you probably are using either a 30C or 200C, but it's very dilute. So people are saying, can that work? It does work because it still has the energetic energy that is in there, and not energy in a weird woo woo way, but everything has energy. We know that if you don't have energy, you're not moving, right? You're not living. Your heart isn't beating. So it's really important that you understand that it's taken from something that's in nature, and so your body recognizes it. And it's like, oh wow, I know how to handle this. Okay, so who can take homeopathy? We've talked about that. Almost anybody. We're treating my chicken with homeopathy. You can give it to fish. I did a whole on my YouTube, if you're interested. I did a whole training on how to use homeopathy to treat animals. We use it a lot for dogs, cats, all of that, even large animals. They're using it very extensively in Europe right now instead of antibiotics so that they can keep their milk sources. Because did you know if a cow goes on antibiotics, they have to discard that milk the time that they're doing the antibiotics. So they're finding they're saving so much more money using homeopathy with animals, so that they can keep them healthier. They can treat mastitis very easily with homeopathy. And then they're also using it in agriculture so that they're using less chemicals and pesticides. So worldwide, over 200 million people use homeopathy on a regular basis. So for whoever it was who said they lived in Germany, or have any of you noticed that when you've traveled overseas that it's more available? So when Germany, when I was there, I was working for the army, but I was civilian, so I had to go to the regular doctor. And I went to the doctor and I said, okay, I need my antibiotics because I've been on antibiotics several times a year for years. I'm getting sick. I had pneumonia issues, bronchitis, like reoccurring all the time. And they said, we don't give antibiotics just for a cold. And I said, you don't understand. I have to have it. And instead, they sent me home with homeopathy. And I was really upset, to be honest, because I'm like, I'm not a German. I can't take off 3 weeks of work. I'm working full time. I'm doing my master's. I'm traveling. I need antibiotics to keep going. They're like, no. And so they gave me the homeopathy. And you know what? It worked. But I don't know what they gave me. I still don't remember. So, like I said, it's very common in Europe. It is practiced out of 40 out of 42 European countries, where 3 out of 4 people are familiar with homeopathy, and 29% use it for their primary health care. 57% of people in Germany use homeopathic medicines, and it's mandated in the medical schools that they teach it, which is huge. And approximately 10% of all physicians in Germany specialize in homeopathy, and 38% prescribe homeopathic remedies. And I don't know if that doctor only used homeopathy. That's all he gave me, because he said I wasn't to the point of antibiotics. In France, and that's where boron, the blue tubes come from, the purple tubes. 95% of the general practitioners use homeopathy in their practices, and 100 million people depend solely on homeopathy for medical care. And India, it's also very big. So any of the former British Isle type countries, 200,000 registered homeopathic doctors are in India. So they're full doctors, but then they're also trained in homeopathy. So I did want to show you, there's a book that I teach in my classes, but you can get it off of Amazon. It's called the Banerjee Protocols, and these are done by homeopathic doctors in India, fourth generation. They have a huge research clinic, and each doctor sees about 100 patients a day. They see 200 to 300 cancer patients per week. And people come to them from all over the world. They were featured in the Truth About Cancer series, if you've ever watched that. They treat serious issues, and they have had like a road named after them, a stamp. They've treated everybody from the poorest of the poor to the president of India, and they have been very revered. So this is what I teach. It has very to start with, it has very easy protocols in here. The first chapter is all on cancer. And then the other one is on the other chapters are on basic issues that you can just look up. So it's a good starter for people who are unfamiliar with homeopathy, as well as understanding the basics of it. So it's available in a lot of South American countries. There's so many people I've run into from other, especially South American or Central American countries, and they've told me homeopathy saved my life. They were either in the hospital, something happened, and they had a family member or somebody who helped them get homeopathy and save their life. So many famous people have used homeopathy. Mother Teresa, they actually in India, they would set up like a table outdoor clinic and treat people, and also in their orphanages, with homeopathy, because it's so inexpensive and it works all the way to royalty. So the British royal family from Queen Victoria through King Charles, he's a very big advocate of homeopathy, have always had a homeopathic physician. So I always say, if it's good enough for royalty, it's good enough for me. So when the Queen Elizabeth used to travel, she would always travel with her homeopathic physician and a kit, because they would go on their, I believe it was a royal yacht, and travel around the world, and they couldn't get to easy medical care. So and as you know, they live quite a while. They can have access to any kind of care, and they still choose to use homeopathy. And King Charles, if you look it up, he has actually been a huge advocate in protecting homeopathy in the UK. Of course, Mark Twain, I mean, Tina Turner. It was talked about. Louisa May Alcott was actually a trained nurse, so she actually mentions homeopathy in some of her books. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. So this is my family. We just recently returned from Maui. My husband's almost 60 and I'm 50. So you can see we're still healthy. We're not on any medications. And that's because I truly believe nutrition and supplements and homeopathy are huge for keeping us going. For me, I had severe hay fever from the time I was a kid, severe allergies to the point where I was sick all the time. I had pneumonia from the time I was little. And so what I learned is, in that kit that was sitting on my mom's counter, there was a remedy called Calcarea carbonica, which was made from um, oyster shell, something very simple, right? And that was sitting on my mom's countertop all those years, but I never knew how to use it properly because I wasn't trained. I had the remedies, but I didn't have the education or training. We had one little book, no internet. We were in a very rural part of New Mexico in the mountains, and there weren't many people to ask except for the lady who talked us into getting it, my sister's violin teacher. And she had a ranch, very busy. She treated all her animals with it. But later on, when I jumped back into homeopathy and started learning about it, I took this every other day, only for 9 weeks. 9 weeks. It wasn't every day. And I had spent so much money. You guys, I used to go to Walgreens or any of those places and stock up on my allergy medicine, Zantac, Sudafed, all the stuff, right? I don't even know, how many days of work I missed and how many days I was just there sick, right? At work, getting everybody else sick. once I did that, I have not, and I'm not saying this is going to happen to everybody because I know how to treat it when it happens. I have not had a respiratory issue go to my lungs since 2019. My allergies, I would go out, I have chickens, I have, dogs, we have, a little bit of property. Every day I would go out to my chickens and come back and literally just my nose, eyes running. I just start grabbing tissues and start sneezing. So it doesn't mean I don't have allergies, but my allergies have changed significantly. And that's what I talk about. It doesn't mean that issue is going to completely go away. I still sneeze every once in a while, but I rarely have that runny. I used to just do that sneezing, 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 spasmodic sneezing. And unless we have the smoke issues, which that will set me off as the smoke issues, and we have that coming through the state. I usually don't have those issues. And I know what to do if I start to feel something. I haven't had COVID. I haven't had anything like that because I know how to treat stuff, nip it in the bud, and because I was able to get my immune system up with that calcarea carbonica. So it's a very simple remedy. So for $10, I used one bottle and changed my life. And I can smell better, I can taste better. And so once I saw that and I did that for myself, I'm like, whoa, this stuff actually works. I was very skeptical. I really was. My son he had restless leg syndrome, which I didn't know. From the time he was one, he would wake up with terrible pains, crying. And at one point, I had two babies, and he was waking me up more than my nursing baby was. And so they told me give him, children's Tylenol up to 3 times a day. And I'm like, that's not good for his liver. And now you see all the lawsuits that are going on. And so I was determined to find something else. So we found by giving him some supplements, a potassium, we could stop it. But if we forgot, by 11 o'clock, he was in pain again and crying again. And so I started doing research once I started going into homeopathy, and I learned about Cupra Metacallium 30 and he did it twice a day for about 9 weeks. And we started to realize, oh my gosh, he's not getting the pain every day. It went to once a month. So with homeopathy, we want to see it happen less frequently. It doesn't mean it was cured overnight. He had a lifetime of that pain, but we started seeing it less and less. And now he's actually, they were just my husband and my son were just training. They did 4 days in the wilderness over Memorial Day weekend. And so, yeah, he came back with some leg pain. I sent them with a kit so that I make these kits for people. So if they were taking homeopathy, so to prevent leg pain, my husband gets terrible Charlie horses when he hikes like that. So I tell them what to take. And every time you stop, you take this, and to prevent it, put it in your water. And then they came back. Yeah, they were sore. 4 days of hiking, right? Sleeping on the ground. But they were not nearly where my husband would be in so much pain. He would get up in the middle of the night and just pace and pace. And I said, okay, we're not going to have that anymore. So we figured it out. So like I said, when I started seeing these wins in my family, I was just like blown away. My daughter, I told you, had acid reflux and was on medication from the time she was born. So I used lycopodium 30 2 times a day for a while. And we got her to the point where every once in a while she still has some, she'll eat something and she'll have pain. But she's like, Mom, I don't need that anymore. I'm better now. So, it's like we were on medication. We would get it from TRICARE, 3 months worth of medication at a time for her. And so in the mail. And we don't have to use that at all anymore after a $10 remedy, right? Bovista. So I had food allergies to pork and peanuts. And growing up in New Mexico, where we have potlucks all the time and pork and everything, going to Germany, oh my gosh, I actually ended up getting really, really sick in Germany because even with the soup that they say is vegetable made, they would use a pork broth. And so I really struggled. So I would be in serious pain. Well, anyway, I used this one and I used it for over a year, Bovista. And now I can have peanuts and I can eat pork. I can go to our church group meeting or whatever, and not be in fear of what I'm going to be eating, which is huge. Do I feel the peanuts a little bit? I will still feel a tiny bit in my throat. I'm not eating tons of peanuts, but I needed to get to the point where I wasn't reacting and getting sick. Female issues, anemia, dizziness issues, I've taken care of all those. My husband had reoccurring nosebleeds. He lived here. He was stationed here 2 other times before coming here. And he would have to put Vaseline in his nose every single day. Otherwise, he would get horrible nosebleeds. And so finally, I told him, I said, I don't want you putting that petroleum in your nose right there. And so let me show you how we're going to get it. So we weaned him off of it. It took several months and we got him off of doing the Vaseline. And he was like, I can't go to work and just start having these bloody noses in front of clients. So we worked very, very slowly, got him comfortable and got him off of the Vaseline. And he hasn't had a nosebleed since. And that was in 2000 or 2023. So anyway, so we treat all sorts of things that are acute, like hornet stings, dog bites, headaches, tummy aches, a lot of food poisoning or stomach issues from food, acne, styes, colds, flu, and allergies. How many of you have had people have high altitude sickness here? So I have one. It's called Cocculus. I recommend people carry it. It's in my kit or just get it from Sprouts. And I have literally, we're skiers. Not my husband, but my kids and I are skiers. So many times people are dealing with high altitude sickness or having to go get oxygen or so sick they're nauseated, headaches. I give them a few doses of this and they're like, what did you give me? I'm like, oh, it was homeopathy. So I carry this because there's so many times, even people coming to Colorado Springs, I've had family members get altitude sickness just coming from the lowlands up here, but especially when we're out hiking, we do a lot of hiking and skiing and boating and camping. So I treat my dogs, chickens, and cats. So I wanted to ask you, Matt, can you tell me a little bit about are you able to share about what you were dealing with and how the homeopathy helped?
Yeah, well, I've always dealt with allergies, particularly cats. When my wife had cats when she passed away, now I have cats. Uh, I'm a believer you can get rid of kids, you can't get rid of pets. Uh, but I guess you first turned me on to uh, what I'm taking a little over a month ago.
Yes,
I noticed, and for me, everything is observation, and that because nothing is consistent every minute of every day. But I'll wake up and the frickin' cat is laying in front of my nose, but I'm not getting the where I'm stuffed up and can't breathe and stuff like that. So um, you know as long as things work, I keep working. I have to do a balancing act because I take other things tied into Darlene's done a lot of blood tests on me and is helping me with things there. So um, I know
and
that
what about the sleeping? Didn't you start the sleep calm?
I did. I've been my brain doesn't shut off. And a big part of
I'm the
that
same way.
was, traveling most of my career for almost 50 years, always in a different hotel, driving all day, busy days, having to worry about being at an appointment at the right time the next morning, even though I'm getting into a hotel at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, I've always been on Ambien since 2006. And along with Ambien, I take a couple melatonin, a couple Tylenol PM, and along with all my other stuff, and then some other natural sleep things from different supplement companies. And I know that I take it at 8:30. I go to bed by, I fall asleep around 11. I get up at 6 o'clock, but I sleep during that time period. It's not like my brain turns on and I can't think of anything else. Um, I know the sleep calm said to take two. I only took one, and
Yeah, I tell people just start with one.
yeah, and it's like 9 hours of solid sleep. And what I notice is that other than folding the blanket back and climbing under it, the rest of the bed is made. All I have to do is fold it back to make the bed in the morning. I do not move, but I sleep, and it's not like I'm having weird dreams or anything like that. And sleep is so important for all of us. We're all so
Absolutely.
busy, and if we're being drugged all day because of whatever we took, then it's not working either. We need to be able to hit the floor pretty quickly and jump in. I started doing stuff at 8 o'clock this morning, and then I'll be going till 8 o'clock tonight. So I have to have energy all day. So
Yep,
you had
absolutely.
mentioned
Well,
you
thank you.
you yeah, you had mentioned to me, and I wanted to point it out. Um, I guess you have a digital copy of your book.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second, if it's all right.
Okay.
And I just want to let you know, and I see somebody's hands raised. If it's okay, I'm going to get through the presentation
Yep.
very quickly, and then I'm going to take questions. That
Okay.
way, if you want to stop recording, we can. So just very
The
quickly,
questions are
there's some.
good for the recording too.
Oh, okay. So for the homeopathy for insomnia, we have some wonderful ones. Ignatia is great for anything with grieving, disappointment, stress, worry. I recommend that one in a 200 twice a day if needed. And I keep that by my bed if I'm going through grieving, like when we lost a dog, when I lost my grandpa, those kinds of things. Caliphosphoricum is great for, it's a great brain remedy. It's a cell salt, and I'll talk about that for overwork, drowsy, exhaustion. And I recommend that one in a 6X. So I put a couple things that I thought might be helpful for this crowd. So aching and arthritis. Rhus tox 200 twice a day and Bryonia 30 twice a day. I was working actually with a veteran out of New Mexico, and he was going he had terrible knee pain. He'd already had knee surgeries. And I told him about these remedies. I was working with him with PartnerCo stuff, but he was in so much pain. I said, you got to take this. And so he started taking this, and he was like, oh my gosh, this stuff actually works. I can't believe it. He was an army guy, and had been his body had been beat up, right? So I'm not saying it's going to take away every pain and make it so you don't have to have surgery, but I'm going to say that it makes it so it's tolerable. And I gave it to my dog. She lived almost 15. And I would stop giving it to her for a little while, thinking, oh, she doesn't need it anymore. My husband would say, why is the dog not going up the stairs and she's barking like she can't walk up the stairs? I said, oh, I stopped giving the homeopathy. I didn't think it was helping. He was like, start it again. Because after a week, she would go back to it. So there's a lot of times that we can stop it. That's the goal with homeopathy, is to take it for a little while and come off of it. Unlike when you go to the doctor and I say they give you a lifetime of you've got to take this medication. That's not the goal with homeopathy. But there are certain times when you do need to take it more long term. And with arthritis with my dog, I did have her on it for 2 years until she passed away. So allergies, we talked about that. Allergy calm, calcarea carbonica to help your immune system, just to prevent it. Sabadilla and histaminum, those two. Sabadilla really helps with that itchiness that's happening right then. So I keep that one on hand. Also, there's a great one for spasmodic sneezing, which is what I would deal with. I just couldn't stop sneezing. Histaminum is to get your histamines down and to help your body be able to handle the allergens that are around, preventing flu and illness. So my husband used to do the flu vaccine every year for the military. And I said, okay, sweetie, once you get her out, we're not doing that anymore. And we use this 200 just during the flu season. And you know what? It's a lot more effective. A lot more people are getting sick around him. And he works 2 jobs in the winter. So this really helps him. Also, if you're starting to feel that tickle in the throat, I always tell my kids, soon as you feel it, you take ferrum phosphoricum. And I will take it. I was over at the hospital. I've been helping a family member. And so I started to feel that. I'm like, I'm just going to take that. And I've been around a lot of people that are sick. You can take it as a preventative, like when we're traveling, if I feel like we're going to need it, or like when my kids do theater and they're really pushing their bodies, or going to be at a camp, then that's something I will take actually as a preventative. We call it homeoprophylaxis. There's another option for high cholesterol. My husband went to the doctor and they said, okay, we're going to put you on a statin. My husband said, my wife won't let me take a pharmaceutical. Do you have anything natural? And this was before I knew about homeopathy. So they put him on red yeast rice extract, which is not homeopathy. It is a supplement. And he told him, yeah, that one works well. I've seen it well in the study. So he started taking that one. But there is a homeopathic called cholesterinum that you can take as an alternative. And I always say this caveat, I'm not giving medical advice. You need to go through your doctor. You need to work on getting off of medication with them. Don't ever stop a medication, but you can work with them and see if you can get it, start moving that direction. The other thing, as Mac mentioned, is I'm with PartnerCo, which I got onto because They have the first bottle there. These are called the slenderized drops. The first bottle has homeopathy. It's a homeopathic blend. And I watched my friend Julie Park right there. Her husband's here in Colorado Springs, and they were part of our co-op, and her husband's a doctor here in town. I watched her struggle. They came to me for a consult, so I worked with them. She was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. She had Epstein-Barr virus. She had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all the stuff, and not sleeping, just a mess. So I was helping her with homeopathy, but then she sent these and found these, and this is all homeopathic. This is herbal and a vitamin blend. And within a few months, I watched her change, and it took me like a year of following her. She said, Amy, you got to try these because so many people come to you. And I said, okay, I'm going to try them. So this was me in July 2022 at Glen Erie. You know where Glen Erie is. And then this was me 2 years later. And after hiking up with a lot more energy and going up to, oh gosh, Hanging Falls Lake. If you know where is it Hanging Lake, right? Um,
Like,
I was able to lose weight. I got my energy back. I was dealing with hormonal issues. And so same thing with Julie. She looks like this exactly. I'm going to actually see her tomorrow. She's lost the weight. She's no longer type 2 diabetic, no longer high cholesterol, blood pressure. She doesn't have the Epstein-Barr virus. I would see her and she would start sweating and she would say, look, Amy, I'm having these fevers that would come on. So I am doing a special. We have also something called Core Cleanse, and this is not homeopathic. It is natural though, and I work with a lot of kids and adults that have issues with elimination, with constipation, whatever it might be. This stuff you drink it it's in a packet, and it is a lemon ginger flavor. They say it tastes like the Chick-fil-A lemonade, and so I use that one as well as there's homeopathic options as well. So I'm doing a sale for those of the drops just themselves, 145, and the core cleanse 75 or 220 for each. So I wanted to show you this couple. So this is Karen and Rick. He's a veteran. They started taking my classes when I first started teaching them around 2020. They wanted to take control of their health. He had Gulf War syndrome and a lot of issues, and he was so exhausted in dealing with the VA, and just wasn't getting help with his issues. And so they attended both. I used to teach two courses, and then I taught a full allergic course. I used to teach them every week. They came to my house for weeks, along with a lot of other people, started working with 20 to 30 people, teaching these classes and empowering them, how they can help their families. And most people say once they have taken the classes, they're like, oh my gosh, my fear has just reduced. You've just given us tools. I've given you ways to handle things that you don't have to run. And this was in the middle of COVID. Nobody wanted to go to the doctor. Nobody wanted to go to the hospital. No one wanted to go to urgent care. And so basically, I taught them how for him, and he attended most of my classes. I will say mostly it's women, but this guy attended every single one of my classes and he took notes and he would come up and ask questions. I've got this issue. And he had serious issues. He was on a lot of medication. He was able to get control of that and get off of all of his medication. And then I started selling PartnerCo products 2 years ago, and they both jumped on. They were one of my first people. And they were at church. So I'd see them every week and they're like, look, I'm wearing this. It's looser. Look, I've lost. He would show me his belt, like, oh, my belt's going down again. So he only lost 9 pounds, but he lost 4 inches off of his waist. He was pre-diabetic and he's no longer pre-diabetic. He has steady energy throughout the day. Karen was able to get off both of her diabetic medications. And I will tell you, it took her 2 years. She got off the Ozempic right away, but it took her 2 years. And I told her, I said, do not stop until the doctor has approved for you to come off. I don't want you to have, I don't want you to have a serious issue. So she was able to come off of that, her statin, and she was able to cut her thyroid medication in half. I personally have been able to get off my thyroid medication by using homeopathy and using, like I said, this does include, I did forget to say with these, it does include a food plan, a low glycemic food plan that we encourage. Okay, so next steps to vibrant health. I have a free school community. I would love for you to join. I've got My classes are the only thing, the big class, the big course is the only thing I charge. I've got lots of other things like fermented vegetables. I'm always doing articles. I'm doing a lot of interviews with people. All that's on there, nutrition. So that's free to join. Would love for you to be a part of it. I have my Health is Wealth book. It's on Amazon Kindle. If you would prefer a hard copy, I will say I have a lot of links in here. I have a lady that's printing them for me, excuse me, for $20. And this will equip you with how to use homeopathy. I have links for, and I'll show you some examples. And I sent out a free sample of my book and a free cell salt chapter to Mac for whoever's here in attendance. And then additionally, I have little homeopathy kits. So these are really small. I don't know if you can see them. They're essential oil bottles. And I on here, everything is laminated and printed. And then all I do, like for these, I put it has 10 each in here. And so that way you can be equipped for anything that's happening. So, especially when you're traveling, but all the time, I keep these in my purse and I will have people run up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, Amy, do you have anything for this? I'm getting a cold, I'm sneezing, somebody just got stung by something, someone's having high altitude sickness, someone's crying, whatever it might be." I run over there and try to help them. And so being prepared, I always say, be prepared, not scared. Even if you need to rely and you need to get to the doctor, for example, personally, I carry stuff for rattlesnake bites because we are outdoors all the time. And I have a dog, right, that loves to get into stuff. We go boating and we boat a lot at Pueblo where there's snakes. So I carry stuff. So does that mean I'm not going to take my dog or myself to the doctor? Absolutely not. If we have to get to the ER, but I have stuff to give them on the way so that while we're going there, while we're in the waiting room, I just spent some time in ER with a family member. I can be giving them stuff until the doctor sees us. Sometimes you have to wait for hours. So I always say, be prepared, not scared. I also do one-on-one consulting for homeopathy. I'm working with a couple right now, and he's a Marine Corps. He was in the Marine Corps, and he was exposed to the chemicals at Camp Lejeune. If you all know about that, the cleanup of that, and he has a couple of the things that I'm not going to say out on here, but a couple of things that they mention on there. And so we're working with him, and I'm working with his wife, and his wife just did a quick video for me. She has had a hernia and acid reflux for years, has lived on Tums. And I started her, and within 2 days, she's like, "Oh my gosh, this stuff is working. What did you give me?" And she did a little video for me. So it's on my Facebook site if you want to look it up, and in my school. And then she also had terrible leg cramps she would get that would wake her up in the middle of the night. And she was like, "I'm not having them I took the stuff you gave me." So these are the things. If I can just help people with their suffering and pain, like I said, I'm not trying to cure and heal the world, but I'm trying to make a difference, and I would love to and be honored to help you. The other thing is for testing, I do a hair nail analysis that we send off to a lab, and it comes back with a 30-page report of anything that's out of balance in your body from systems. I mean, I have had back surgery, and I broke at one point, I have scoliosis, and then I broke my neck at a horse accident. So it was actually showing me which vertebrae were out, which teeth I had issues with, and then it comes back with homeopathic remedies to help balance what is going on specifically for your body and your DNA. So that's another thing that I offer, and that is $349 because we have to pay the lab that does all that. So anyway, and then my next course, which I encourage you to take, is Health is Wealth course. I'm going to be doing it Saturday, June 27th, 10 to 5 on Zoom. I also offer in-person ones. I'll probably be doing an in-person one in October or November. So yes, and here's my information. If you want to contact me, my cell phone, email, Facebook, all of that. And then Mac, do you mind sending out the free chapter?
I already did. It's in
Okay.
my original thing. It says Amy Rickman's book, and there's a link tied
Okay.
into the other stuff. Uh, First off, Steve or Arica, one of you had a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, I have a question about the coculus
Mhm.
for high altitude. My daughter, well, both my daughters own an Airbnb in Leadville, but
Okay.
when my daughter from Illinois comes out and goes there, she's okay, but her partner and her son, who were born at low altitude, takes them a couple of days to get over it. So, how fast does it work? Do they have to start taking it days ahead or?
So it'll work pretty quickly. I do recommend that they carry it. And you know what? If they have an Airbnb, you could even keep it there and say, this is for high altitude. Just like I've seen people put out ginger stuff. Like when I'm a scuba diver as well, when I'm scuba diving, people say, okay, here's your ginger. You can take that if you want. So you can take it as a preventative. So some people, as they start going up into the mountains and they're going up the roads, they start getting car sick. So the cocculus actually helps with dizziness. So I used it a lot with dizziness when I had anemia before I've healed that with homeopathy, and for high altitude, for nausea, any of that. So as soon as they start to feel it, they can take it. Or if they know, okay, I'm going to Colorado, I'm going to have high altitude sickness. We're in the car, we're about to drive to Leadville. I would take it then. I would take it in the car. And I do that with kids. I work with a lot of kids. And of course, my kids have a lot of friends. I've got teens. So if I know that somebody, tends to get car sick, I will give them that one or Nux vomica. Nux vomica is another one for car sickness. But absolutely, I would do it in a 200 if they do have the serious the cocculus in a 200. And I'll write that down for you. That one you might have to order. All of these, that's the thing is I don't make money from any of this that I recommend. You can get it off of Amazon, or I don't know if Sprouts will have the 200. I don't know. They might have the 30, but I would just order that from either Boron directly, from this company, or from Amazon.
What I
Okay.
would suggest is you copy Amy's contact number and talk about all these issues separately. She will be at the conference for everybody that's joining the conference. We're up against the time here. Um, I just wanted to say again, I will be having a pre-conference Zoom tonight at 6 o'clock Mountain so that people can get to know each other and get prepared. Amy, we got to do part two of this. I mean,
Okay.
uh, yeah, when I talked to you about coming on, you said, "Well, what am I going to talk about?" That, and you're just going really strong. I think there's so many different issues, and most people don't want to talk in an open group. So I encourage people to contact you directly and have a
Right.
one-to-one conversation. We can get into
Absolutely. And
what the Rockefellers did, pushing
yeah,
Western medicine and all of that. But I'm a believer that the medicine that we know for the
Yeah, all
doctors
her
we've been
stuff
going
is
to most of our life is
Matt
not the
put it
only
in.
answer for a lot of these things.
Here's
right, right. And I
those
just
are
wanted to mention that I
that's
know
these
with
ones here.
sometimes veterans have issues, and anybody with suicidal issues or depression, there is stuff that can help you where you don't have to go on the heavy medication. I lost my own father to that situation, so it's very near and dear to my heart. So I just want to let you guys know that I encourage people to look at other options before just going on the medications. Unless that's your only way, or if you're already on them, obviously. But there is a way, like I've worked with people with antidepressants, working with their doctor and with them coming off of it because of the side effects they were having, those kinds of things. So like I said, again, I'm educating people. I'm not giving medical advice.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing you at conference next week and everybody joining the pre-conference Zoom Get Ready show tonight at 6 o'clock Mountain. And thank you so much. Uh, Amy, you and Kathy need to get to know each other. Kathy teaches speaking in that, and she's normally just before me on Tuesdays, but you should definitely connect. And also, Darlene, are you coming to conference?
I am next week.
Okay, so you and Darlene should connect also. I think
Absolutely.
you're doing different things in the same venue, making people healthier.
Hey
And
Matt, send
Absolutely.
me send me that link for your thing tonight.
it's the same number as this right here, Tim. And
Okay.
that which is my Zoom room. It's the Zoom protocols and my cell phone number. Uh, so I don't have to always look at different numbers. So it's always the same when I'm hosting it. So anyway, we've gone over time. Thank you all for staying. I appreciate all of you, and look forward to seeing you this evening and or next week. And that we'll talk
Thanks.
soon. Thanks.
Good.